Hey guys, tonight we're taking a gentle stroll into a village that doesn't appear on any modern map. You won't find it by GPS or road signs. In fact, you'll barely realize you've arrived until you notice the air is quieter, the shadows softer, and the wind a little more curious than usual. The cobblestones beneath your feet feel warm, almost like they've been holding on to sunlight for years. And the trees lean ever so slightly inward, like they're whispering secrets to each other. Somewhere far off, a bird calls once, then falls silent as if remembering it's after dark. You didn't plan to come here, and yet here you are. This journey's full of wonders, but blankets and pillows are your only real tools. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening from somewhere cozy, let me know where you are and what time it is in the comments. I love reading them while sipping tea. Now, let the lights fade low. Maybe switch on a gentle fan for that soothing hum, and let's drift quietly into tonight's story together. You've been walking a long time, farther than your feet can remember, and definitely longer than your phone has battery for. There's no signal out here, not that you mind. The road has turned from pavement to gravel, then from gravel to earth, and now to something soft and mossy, like nature decided to make its own welcome mat. The trees thin out ahead. You pass beneath a crooked wooden arch that doesn't announce anything. No sign, no date, no name. Just an arch and a sense that something has shifted. The village welcomes you with nothing but silence, not an eerie kind, more like the calm that exists just after a snowfall or before the world wakes up. The houses are small, nestled together like old friends. Their roofs are tiled with clay and dusted with moss. Flowers grow in crooked little beds by every doorway. Lavender, daisies, something that looks like sleepy chamomile. Even the air smells like a lullaby. No traffic, no ticking clocks, not even a dog barking in the distance. Just your soft footsteps and the occasional creak of the wood as a shutter lazily sways. It's peaceful, unnaturally peaceful, and maybe a little peculiar, because even though it's dusk and golden light spills from a few windows, you don't see anyone. Not yet. Just this sense that someone knows you're here. Someone or something. A presence that doesn't threaten. It simply waits. You find a bench at the edge of what might be the town square, though there's no statue, no plaque, nothing grand, just a round clearing with a cobbled pattern, so worn it looks like it's been walked across for centuries. And then you notice there are no clocks, not on the tower that looms gently overhead, not on the windowsills, not on the lampposts, not even on your wrist. You check anyway, half smiling to yourself. Your watch face is dark, probably dead, or maybe it just knows it's not needed here. One of the houses nearby has a little porch swing creaking in the breeze. A candle flickers inside the window. You could swear it flickered in rhythm with the swing. That thought makes you chuckle a little. Too many podcasts and not enough sleep. You think about taking a picture and then don't. It doesn't feel right. This place doesn't want to be captured. It wants to be felt. You tuck your phone deeper into your pocket. The silence thanks you. Then, faintly, a door creaks open. Not near you, but somewhere out of sight. You hear it because sound travels differently here. No traffic hum to drown it out. No buzzing neon signs. Just the sigh of old wood and the whisper of wind. A shape moves behind one of the glowing windows. A silhouette pours tea. You're not sure where to go, but it doesn't matter. This place doesn't seem to operate on schedules. There's no urgency here, no agendas, just you, this quiet town, and a path you didn't mean to walk. Maybe you'll stay the night. After all, you're already halfway dreaming. The square is quiet, but not empty, not in feeling at least. The village seems to breathe in its own way. Somewhere behind the stillness, there's a gentle hum of life, like a page being turned in a very old book. You rise from the bench, stretch a little, and decide to explore. The cobblestone path is uneven, but soft under your steps, cushioned by time and moss. A wooden sign above a doorway catches your eye. It reads nothing, just carved wood, blank as silence. Maybe it used to say something, or maybe everyone here just knows. The house beside it has a soft light glowing through the windows. Not bright, more like candlelight, golden and slightly flickering. There's no curtain, but also no sense of intrusion. You feel invited to look. Inside, a table is set with mismatched teacups. A worn rug sprawled beneath it. A cat sleeps on a stack of books by the hearth, tail twitching once. You wonder briefly if you're in a dream. It feels like one, not the kind where you fly or fall, but the kind where everything makes a strange sort of sense, even when it shouldn't. You walk on, passing flower beds full of lavender and some pale blossoms you can't name. A single lantern sways on a black iron hook. There's no breeze, but it moves anyway, like it remembers wind. To your left, a house with a low sloping roof and climbing vines seems to exhale. Not literally, of course, but the shutters open just as you pass, as if greeting you. A pair of soft eyes peer out from behind glass. An old woman nods once and disappears into the dimness. Across the street, another house leans slightly sideways, like it's been listening in on the town's gossip for too long, and now can't help but tilt. You approach what might be the village's main road, though here, main is a relative term. It's wider than the others, and slopes downward, like it's leading somewhere important. You follow it instinctively. As you walk, you notice there are no vehicles, no tire marks, no oil stains, not even a rusted bicycle, just paths, worn down by centuries of quiet feet. There's a soft sound to your right, like paper being shuffled. You glance over to see a small open window. Inside, a man sits at a desk, writing. Feather pen, inkwell, the works. He pauses, stares into the distance for a moment, then resumes his writing. His pen doesn't scratch. It glides, as if the paper is eager to listen. There's a small plaque above his door, half covered in ivy. You clear the vines gently with your fingers. It reads, "No deadlines live here." You smile. You've stumbled into a village where the very idea of urgency seems to have withered away. Here, things simply are, as if the whole town has decided that moments are better tasted slowly, like warm tea or soft bread. You pass a bakery that smells like cinnamon and apples. It's closed, Yet you can hear a gentle clatter inside, someone preparing for tomorrow, or maybe just cleaning up from a never-ending today. You glance down an alley. It twists gently between houses, barely wide enough for two people to pass, and yet it calls to you, not loudly, just a whisper. You follow. The alley opens into a pocket garden, a quiet space no bigger than a living room. There's a stone bench, a bird bath with petals floating in it, and a single tree whose roots braid themselves into the earth like a sleeping giant's fingers. You sit again, this time beneath the tree. There's no plaque, no sign telling you who planted it or why, but the tree seems to say, stay a while, and so you do. Above you, the first stars appear. You breathe in, and for the first time in what feels like years, you don't feel the press of time on your shoulders. You're not late, you're not early, you're not anything except here, and here is more than enough. The path curves gently to the right, and as you follow it, the scent of the lavender fades, replaced by something sweeter, freshly baked bread, or maybe warm sugar and spice. But when you glance around for the source, there's no open bakery in sight, just the scent lingering in the air, like memory made real. The cobblestones lead you toward a house a bit larger than the others, with wooden shutters flung open and a vine creeping lazily around the frame. A sign hangs crookedly above the door, only this one actually has words carved into it. 3 of them. The Timeless Inn. Of course, you reach for the handle, half expecting it to be locked. But the door swings open with the soft creak of old hinges and the low bell of something that used to be louder in its youth. Inside, the inn is dim and warm, filled with the scent of chamomile, old wood, and something faintly citrusy, like dried orange peel tucked between book pages. The light comes from a fireplace in the corner and scattered lanterns hanging from the ceiling on long chains, swaying just slightly, even though there's no breeze. No one stands behind the counter, and yet a brass key sits neatly on top of it, tied with a faded green ribbon. Next to it, a note, written in careful penmanship, for the traveler who doesn't mind losing track of time. The handwriting curves, like it was written slowly, with care, not rushed like a hotel memo, but more like a bedtime wish. You pick up the key. It's surprisingly warm in your hand. There are only 3 rooms upstairs. You climb the staircase, and the wood doesn't creak beneath your feet. It sighs, like it's been waiting. Each door has a name instead of a number. Dream, dusk, and echo. Your key matches dusk. The door swings open smoothly, revealing a room that looks like it came out of a childhood memory you didn't know you had. A brass bed with a patchwork quilt. A round window with a view of nothing but treetops and stars. A small desk with a journal already open, pen waiting beside it. The ink isn't dry, but you haven't written anything yet. There's no clock on the wall, no ticking, no blinking LED, not even a phone dock, just a candle and a drawer that holds a bundle of dried lavender tied with a piece of blue string. The walls are thick with silence, but not the cold kind. It's the kind of quiet you'd imagine lives and music before the first note. Full of potential, you sit on the bed and feel it dip beneath you, like it's adjusting itself to your shape. You take off your shoes without thinking, Your feet thank you immediately. For a long moment, you do nothing. You just listen to the stillness, to the faint pop of the fire downstairs, to the tiny tickle of wind that may or may not be real, to the heartbeat of a place that doesn't need alarms, reminders, or alerts. Eventually, curiosity pulls you up again. You leave the room, key in your pocket, and return to the hallway. A mirror hangs between the other two doors. For a second, it seems to shimmer, not reflect exactly, but offer a softened image of you, one where your shoulders are lower, your eyes more at peace. You smile at the mirror. It doesn't smile back, but somehow it feels like it does. You make your way back down to the lobby. The fire is still burning. No one else has come through the door. No one has left either. There's a chair by the hearth. You sit, and the flames begin to whisper, not with words, but with warmth, with memory, with something ancient and comforting, like lullabies, hummed by someone who once knew you well. You close your eyes, and somewhere upstairs, a clock that doesn't exist stays perfectly still. You're not sure how long you sit by the fire. Time doesn't seem to move here in the usual way. The flames don't dance wildly, just shimmer and curl like they're stretching before bed. You could swear they're listening, like the fire knows you've brought stories of your own. Eventually, the warmth becomes so complete that you forget you were ever cold. That's when the thought arrives. Explore a little more. You stand slowly, the way you might when leaving a really good chair or a memory that feels just right. You wander back outside. The night is deeper now, the kind of dark that hums softly instead of weighing down. The moon is higher and somehow closer, like it's checking in on things. There's a tower nearby you hadn't noticed before, tall, made of weathered stone, and capped with a crooked bell that looks like it gave up its job centuries ago. You feel drawn to it, not in a spooky way, more like how you're drawn to crack open an old journal just to see what's inside. You walk closer. The grass here is soft under your steps, not trimmed or tended, but respectful in its own way, like it knows this is sacred ground, even if nobody calls it that. The door to the tower is slightly ajar, as if waiting for someone who's not in a rush. You step inside. It's cooler here. The air has a scent. Stone, dust, maybe a hint of rusted time. There's a spiral staircase leading upward, lit by narrow slits in the walls. As you climb, each step feels less like an effort and more like part of a ritual. You're not here to race. You're here to remember something, even if you're not sure what. At the top, there's a small circular room. The bell sits in the center, suspended above a wooden floor that has clearly seen centuries pass in slow motion. The bell is cracked, not broken, just done. It's still beautiful, with carved vines curling around its rim and faint etchings in a language you don't recognize. You walk slowly around it. There's a rope attached, but it's frayed and brittle, and something in you knows not to pull it, not because it'll break, but because it doesn't need to be wrung anymore. You look out the window and see the entire village below. Roofs blanketed in moonlight, windows still glowing gently. The winding cobblestone streets look like veins in a sleeping body. And it is sleeping, isn't it? The whole place. Not dead, not forgotten, just resting. You place your hand gently on the edge of the bell. It's cold, then warm, then somewhere in between. You close your eyes. A thought drifts in. Maybe this tower was never meant to sound alarms. Maybe it was built to hold silence. Maybe that's just as sacred. You stay there a little while longer, breathing in that quiet. Below, a cat pads across the square, unbothered. A window shuts. Another one opens. Nothing feels urgent, not even the stars. You make your way back down, your fingers grazing the stone wall for balance, though the steps feel like they remember you already, like you've done this before. Back at the door, you pause. You glance up at the bell one more time, silhouetted against the moon, and then you step out into the night again, unhurried, unchanged, and somehow entirely different. The stars blink overhead, like they're watching you quietly, content to let the night unfold without interruption. You take one last look at the bell tower from below. It now seems part of the sky, silhouetted against that soft, glowing moon. It doesn't need to chime to be heard. Its silence speaks louder than any echo. You wander further down a narrow lane, one you haven't noticed before, because maybe it didn't exist until now. The village seems to offer up new places only when you're ready to see them. The street is lined with soft grass rather than cobblestones, and tiny white flowers glow faintly under the starlight. You pause, crouch, and pick one gently. It smells like honey and something forgotten, like a dream from when you were very small. A cat emerges from behind a barrel, a gray tabby with half a tail and a stare far too wise for its size. It looks at you, blinks slowly, then pads along ahead of you like a guide. You follow. The cat leads you around a bend to a small square you've never seen before. A circular stone fountain bubbles quietly in the center, not spraying upward, just overflowing gently, like it's sighing rather than speaking. Around the edges of the fountain are smooth stones, and on each one is a carved word, not names, just words. Hope, pause, warmth, forget, listen, return. You run your fingers over one of them. The stone feels freshly carved, but moss has already begun to creep in. Time works differently here. The cat curls beside the fountain, yawns with a silent meow, and closes its eyes. You sit beside it, watching the ripples in the water. The reflections shift with each tiny wave. At first you see yourself, then you see someone else. It's hard to describe. Not exactly a person, maybe a memory, maybe a version of you from long ago, or from a future you haven't met yet. They smile. You smile back. You don't feel afraid. You feel welcomed. You dip your fingers into the water. It's warm, like someone boiled tea an hour ago and forgot to drink it. The ripples dance outward and then settle. Behind you, wind chimes sound, but there's no wind. You turn, expecting to see a porch or a shop or something familiar. Instead, you see a tea shop, not flashy. No neon sign, just a wooden door painted seafoam green and a window glowing from within. A tiny sign hangs above the frame, steeped in time. Of course, the cat is gone. Maybe it never existed at all. You rise and approach the tea shop, opening the door slowly. A bell tinkles, not sharp, just a chime like someone tapping porcelain with a spoon. Inside, The shop smells like a memory of your favorite day if that day had been soaked in herbs, baked into scones, and served on a rainy afternoon. The walls are lined with tea tins, none labeled in any language you know. One tin simply reads, "Quiet." Another says, "Yesterday." A third is labeled, "The feeling you forgot." You feel no need to ask questions. You simply sit at a small round table, and a teacup appears in front of you. Steam curls upward, like it's stretching after a long nap. You sip, and the village shifts around you once more. The teacup in your hands is warm, perfectly warm, like it knew exactly when you'd arrive. You don't ask what's in it. You don't need to. The flavor is familiar, but not identifiable, like something you drank once on a rainy afternoon. Maybe when you were 10, maybe in a dream. It tastes like stillness, like being understood. The tea shop is small, but filled with detail. Wooden shelves bow gently under the weight of jars, boxes, and books with titles in fading ink. A worn rug sprawls across the floor, patterned in a way that almost, but not quite, forms a story. You trace it with your eyes, but the tale slips away as soon as you try to follow it. There's no one behind the counter, and yet the teapot stays full. On a nearby table, a chessboard sits mid-game. One of the pawns is carved like a fox instead of a soldier. The opposing knight has a rose etched into its side. Someone's been playing a long, slow match, and they're not done yet. You rise to explore. Your chair doesn't scrape. It simply sighs beneath you, grateful for the company. As you move toward the wall of tins, you notice something odd. None of the dust is settled. It all feels recently touched, freshly stirred, as though the village itself comes here for comfort. One tin catches your attention. It has no label at all, but when you lift the lid, the scent is instantly calming. A little like mint, a little like pine, and a lot like sitting under a heavy blanket while rain taps against the windows. You close it gently. The tin clicks shut, as if saying, "That's enough for now." Near the back of the shop, a curtain hangs over a doorway. It sways, just slightly, although the air is still. You're not sure of whether you should enter. And then, you are. Behind the curtain, there's a hallway, narrow, lined with framed sketches. Some landscapes, some faces. You pause at one of a young woman with freckles and a crown made of violets. Her eyes seem to move slightly as you do. Not watching, just noticing. At the end of the hallway, a spiral staircase curls downward, softly lit by golden sconces set into the walls. You descend. At the bottom, a round room awaits. It's made entirely of books. Books stacked in towers, books resting open on pedestals, books tucked into the grooves of the walls like puzzle pieces, and in the center, an armchair. Not fancy, just right. Beside it, a candle glows. A book lies open in the seat, like it's been waiting for you. You sit. The book contains a single sentence. Time bends for those who no longer chase it. The pages after that are blank. You exhale, not realizing you'd been holding your breath. You feel paused, not stuck, not lost, just paused in a way that feels deliberate. You don't want to leave. You don't have to. And for the first time, in what might be hours or days or moments, You feel the deep, wordless truth of this place. Somewhere inside this village, time put down its watch and curled up for a nap, and somehow you've joined it. Eventually, you close the book, not because you've finished, but because it feels polite. The candle flickers in response, as if nodding. The moment stretches out like warm taffy, slow, sweet, and oddly satisfying. You rise from the chair, stretch gently, and find that your limbs feel lighter, not in a magical way, just in a way that suggests you've let go of something you were carrying and didn't realize. The staircase you came down is gone. Of course it is. Instead, a narrow hallway stretches ahead, lined with low arches and soft, golden sconces. You follow it, footsteps silent, the air rich with the smell of old wood and distant herbs. At the end of the hallway is a round wooden door with a brass handle shaped like a sleeping cat. You turn it gently, and the door creaks open into a room that hums with warmth. Inside is the tea shop again, but different, not rearranged, not transformed, just deeper, like you've passed through a version of it that exists beneath the surface. There's a figure behind the counter now, an old man with eyes like quiet storms and hands wrapped around a mug of something steaming. He doesn't speak. He just smiles and nods, as if to say, "Welcome back," even though you've never seen him before. You nod back. He gestures gently toward a corner of the shop you hadn't noticed before. There's a door slightly ajar, with a soft glow coming from within. You glance back at the man. He raises his cup and sips without a word. You follow the glow. The room beyond is filled with clocks, not ticking, not one of them. They stand on mantels, hang from hooks, sit on shelves, but all their hands are still. You walk through the room slowly, reverently, like you're inside a museum for forgotten time. Some of the clocks are elegant, others rustic. One is shaped like a birdhouse. Another looks like it was carved from sea glass. Each one holds its own kind of silence. In the middle of the room is a small pedestal. On it sits a pocket watch with the cover open. Its face is blank. No numbers, no hands, just a soft shimmer of reflected light. You pick it up gently. It feels heavier than it looks. And then it ticks. Just once. A single, soft note that echoes through the room like the distant sound of someone remembering your name. You blink, and when you open your eyes, you're standing at the edge of the village square again. No pocket watch in your hand, no clocks in sight, just the sound of the breeze and the rustling leaves, and a sense, deep in your bones, that you've been given something without weight or form. You walk slowly down the main path, back toward the inn, though you don't remember turning around. The lights are still glowing in the windows. The bench by the square still waits patiently. The moon is lower. Now, closer to the hills, you pass the empty fountain and hear the faintest whisper of time. Still sleeping, still safe. The inn greets you like a favorite blanket, familiar, comforting, and just a little warmer than you remember. You step inside, and the soft thud of the door behind you feels like the village whispering, "You're safe now." The fire in the hearth is still glowing. A pot of something steamy sits near the edge, untouched but not forgotten. The chair you sat in earlier remains beside the fire, tilted just slightly, as if someone got up, expecting you to return. You do. You sit, and for a moment, nothing happens. And that's perfect. Your body sinks into the cushions with the ease of old friends, falling into silence. The flames crackle a little louder now, as if catching up on the part of the story you missed while exploring. You think of the clocks, not because they told you anything, but because they didn't. Their stillness lingers in your thoughts like a lullaby with no words. It plays on repeat in the quiet space between moments. Across the room, the staircase hums faintly. You walk toward it without deciding to. Each step creaks softly, as if remembering every foot that ever pressed down over the years. Your room is still open, candle still burning, bed still made. You sit at the desk for a moment, fingers resting on the cover of the journal. The pen is where you left it. The ink is dry. You write one word, stay. Then you close the journal. Outside the round window, the moon has slid behind a cloud, painting everything in a soft, silvery blue. The village is still. The wind has stopped pretending to blow. Even the trees seem to have paused mid-sway, caught in the quiet spell of everything not needing to move. You undress slowly, as though it matters. The quilt welcomes you with no rustle. The pillow seems to remember the shape of your head, and you lie there, awake, but not restless. You breathe in, and the room breathes with you. And as your eyes start to drift closed, a thought surfaces, a memory, perhaps, or a truth. The village whispered to your heart. Sometimes the only place worth going is nowhere at all. You don't need to chase anything. You don't need to understand it all. You just need to be still long enough to let the quiet remember you. And here, in this village, where time forgot to tick, you remember what it means to rest. Morning doesn't arrive all at once here. It seeps in through the window like honey, slow, golden, and impossibly soft. The light doesn't chase away the dark. It blends with it, warm and gentle, like two old friends walking side by side. You stir beneath the patchwork quilt, eyes still closed, heart still beating in bedtime rhythm. There's no alarm, no bird chirping obnoxiously, just the faint creak of wood, adjusting itself in the warmth, and a hint of something baking somewhere. You sit up. The room hasn't changed, but it feels refreshed, like it too has just woken from a dream it doesn't want to shake off. You stretch, not because you need to, but because it feels good. The journal on the desk is closed. You wander downstairs. The inn's main room is empty, but not lonely. The fire is out, but the scent of it lingers in the stone hearth. The teapot on the mantel is cold now, but still seems proud of the warmth it offered last night. Outside, the village is wrapped in a golden haze. Dew dots every petal and leaf like punctuation, like the night wrote a poem, and morning is just finishing it. A few villagers mill about, slowly, softly, smiling with their eyes and their pace. No one hurries here. No one has ever hurried here. You stroll toward the square. The fountain bubbles, the same way it always has, without performance, without pressure. The cat, Wednesday maybe, lounges beneath a bench, tail flicking in time with some unheard music. You don't ask for directions. You don't need them. Instead, you head down a path you've never seen before. It wasn't there yesterday, or maybe it was, but you weren't ready for it. It winds gently through the trees, dappled with sun and something like memory. Every step feels like returning to something you've never actually left. You pass a low stone wall and a field of sunflowers, all tilted slightly away from the sun, as if shy. At the end of the path is a small wooden gate. You push it open, and it doesn't creak. It sighs. Inside the gate is a garden. Not perfect, not trimmed or manicured, just alive. Wildflowers everywhere. Mossy stones for paths. A bench carved with initials you don't recognize. Bees buzz lazily in the background, like an ambient playlist set to nap. And in the middle of it all, a sundial. It's broken. Of course, it is. The gnomon, the part that casts the shadow, is missing. Someone at some point removed it. Maybe so people would stop measuring things. You sit beside it. You don't need to tell time anymore. Time here is a guest, not a master. And right now it's resting. Just like you leave the garden slowly, as if trying not to wake it. The path behind you narrows until it disappears into the trees again, like it was only ever meant for you. You don't feel sad, just full, like you've just finished a story and don't need to flip back to the beginning. Back in the village, the streets feel different, brighter, but not louder. The kind of brightness that comes from within, the kind that makes shadows feel welcome, not chased away. A few villagers nod to you as they pass, baskets in hand, arms full of flowers, bread, and time. No one asks where you've been. No one asks where you're going. It's understood that every walk here leads somewhere important, even if it's just back to where you started. You find yourself in front of the tea shop again. The door is open. Inside, the same table waits. The same teacup, now filled again. The steam curls like it missed you. You sit. This time, there's a book on the table. Not the blank one from the library beneath the floor. This one is older. Its corners soft from use. On the cover is a single word. When you open it, every page is written in different handwriting. Some neat, others scrawled. Some pages are filled to the edge. Others have only one line. They all begin the same way. When I stopped chasing time, you read page after page, slowly, like each one is a sip of something warm. I started hearing birds again. My dreams stopped being about missing trains. My hands learned how to hold silence. I noticed how good it feels to finish tea while it's still hot. You reach a blank page. A pen rests beside it. You don't hesitate. You write, "When I stopped chasing time, I found this village." You set the pen down, and the ink dries instantly. The door chimes. A breeze enters, carrying the scent of rosemary and possibility. You step outside and find the square has changed again. Or maybe it hasn't. Maybe you have. The bell tower, distant in the haze, seems to nod. You think of the path that brought you here, how it meandered, how it surprised you, how it asked nothing more than your attention, and how it gave back something far deeper. Not answers, not endings, but rest. You tuck the book beneath your arm and begin to walk, not toward anywhere, just forward, and that's enough. As you move farther through the village, the streets begin to blur into soft trails of stone and moss. You're no longer quite sure where the village ends and the forest begins, and it doesn't matter. The lines between outside and inside, arrival and return, have all begun to soften, like the edges of a well-loved story. The trees arch above you like an old cathedral, leaves whispering lullabies you can almost understand. Sunlight filters through the canopy, dappling your path with patches of gold and green, like nature itself is casting little blessings at your feet. Ahead, you see a wooden footbridge crossing a stream. The water glides underneath, slow and clear, as if even the river has agreed to take things easy here. You stop at the center of the bridge, hands resting on the railing. Below, fish drift lazily between the stones, barely making ripples. A dragonfly hovers nearby, wings glinting like stained glass. You smile without meaning to. A bench sits just off the far side of the bridge, half in sun, half in shade. You sit. Of course you do. It's the kind of bench that calls to your tired bones and says, "You're exactly where you're supposed to be." From this spot, you can see a meadow in the distance. Wildflowers bob their heads gently in the breeze. A dirt path winds through it, though no one walks it right now. You watch as the wind carves soft waves through the grass, like fingers smoothing a sheet. Time could stop here. Maybe it already has. You reach into your coat pocket and find something you didn't know you had. A small folded note, unmarked, uncreased, tucked perfectly. You open it. Thank you for noticing. There's no signature, but you don't need one. You stay on the bench for a long time, watching the world move just slowly enough for you to feel it. Every blink reveals something new. A bird twitching its feathers on a branch, a seed floating by on a breeze, a patch of sunlight slowly shifting like it's following a secret script. And then, faintly, from the direction of the village, you hear laughter. Not loud, not sharp, just light. You rise, drawn back, not by obligation, but by invitation. The path back feels like a song you once knew and are now remembering in pieces. As you walk, you hum a little. Not a tune you know, just something that feels like it belongs here, and somehow like it belongs to you. The village is glowing now, not just with sunlight, but with a kind of stillness that feels earned, like the end of a song that doesn't need applause, just quiet. You find yourself walking through a part of the village you haven't seen before, though you can't say why you're certain of that. The homes here are a little smaller, tucked beneath flowering vines and ivy-draped fences. Each window reveals a different kind of life. Someone painting, someone napping, someone turning pages with slow, practiced grace. You pass a house with wind chimes made from teacups. Another has a mailbox shaped like a loaf of bread. A child giggles behind a curtain, and a dog rests its chin on a windowsill. Neither stirs as you pass. This place trusts you now. You reach a low stone wall. Beyond it lies an orchard, not a perfect one. The trees grow a little wild, branches tangled together, heavy with fruit in no particular pattern. Apples, pears, plums, even something that might be a fig. You open the creaky wooden gate and step inside. The air is thick with sweetness. You pluck a fruit, round, warm, and unfamiliar. The taste surprises you, soft like peach, but with the afterglow of vanilla and memory. You sit in the shade of a crooked tree and take another bite, juice trailing lazily down your wrist. You watch the sunlight dapple through the leaves, casting lazy shadows across your knees. The wind here doesn't rush. It circles gently, brushing your hair, then wandering off to bother someone else's thoughts for a while. In the distance, you hear the sound of someone humming, no tune in particular, just the sound of a life unhurried. You could stay here forever, not because you're hiding, but because it feels like a place where nothing is expected of you except presence. Eventually, you lie back in the grass. The branches above you make a frame of green and gold, and in the center, the sky waits, wide, blue, and completely unconcerned with whatever time it is. You close your eyes, and in that brief flicker, before dreams claim you, you realize this isn't a story about a village where time forgot to tick. It's about a village that forgave it for trying so hard. When you wake, the sun has dipped just low enough to cast long, lazy shadows across the orchard. You stretch under the tree, and your back pops in that satisfying way that says, yes, you really rested. A breeze brushes past you like a friend passing through without interrupting. You stand, brush the grass from your clothes, and walk slowly back toward the village, feeling like the rhythm of the place has settled into your bones. The village has shifted again. It always does, subtly, kindly, never to disorient you, just to remind you that you are in a story, and stories move, even when time does not. You turn down a narrow lane lined with paper lanterns. They glow gently, even though no one has lit them. Their light is the color of comfort. Ahead is a little house with a sign in front, the memory tailor. Curious, you step inside. A woman sits behind a desk, surrounded by spools of thread and bits of fabric. Each thread shimmers with a different hue, not just colors, but feelings. There's one that flickers like nostalgia, another that hums softly like laughter you thought you'd forgotten. She greets you with a nod and gestures to a tall mirror standing in the center of the room. It doesn't reflect your face. It reflects your stories. You step in front of it. The mirror shifts and swirls, revealing fragments of memories. Not dramatic ones, not milestones, but the quiet things. The weight of a favorite blanket, the sound of a song you used to hum, the feeling of your fingers trailing through tall grass as a child. The tailor selects a few threads from her shelf and begins to stitch something behind the counter. Her hands move slowly, with reverence. You don't ask what she's making. You don't need to know. She hands it to you when she's done. A scarf, soft, light, pulsing faintly, with warmth. To carry with you when the village feels far, she says. You drape it over your shoulders, and instantly it feels like it's always been there. You thank her. She nods, already reaching for the next thread. Outside, the lanterns sway, though there's still no wind. You walk onward, past windows that smile, past doorways that feel like old friends, and in the distance, the bell tower stands, quiet and whole. It's still cracked, of course, but now it gleams a little in the last light of the day, like even broken things can catch the sun. The path home, if that's even the right word, winds past the inn again. The windows glow, and through one, you see a familiar shadow. Someone sitting by the fire, reading slowly, turning the pages like each one is a warm breath. You smile. It's not you, but it could be. Or maybe it was. You continue walking. The village begins to quiet, even more than usual. It's not that the people disappear. It's that everything starts to settle, like snow falling inside a globe. You pass the bakery. A fresh loaf rests in the window, steaming just slightly. No one guards it, but no one takes it. That's not how things work here. The sky overhead begins to melt into a palette of soft blues and sleepy pinks. A single star twinkles shyly into view. You find yourself back at the bench by the square, the one where it all began. You sit. The stone is warm from the day, but cooling just enough to remind you that the night is approaching. Lanterns blink to life, one by one, like the village itself is tucking in. You look down at your hands. The scarf the tailor made is still wrapped around your shoulders. It hasn't faded, hasn't frayed, hasn't loosened. It fits more comfortably now, like it's remembered you. You take a deep breath and close your eyes for a moment. When you open them, something glimmers near the center of the square. It's the bell tower. For a moment, just a moment, you think you see the bell move. A tiny swing. No sound, just motion. But it's enough. You understand. The village hasn't erased time. It hasn't even forgotten it. It has simply made peace with it. It's chosen to let go of urgency, of rush, of the demand that every moment must lead to something. Here, time is allowed to sit still, to nap, to hum a tune, and forget the words. And so are you. The stars multiply above you now, slowly, like shy guests arriving to a quiet party. One by one, they fill the sky, not in a rush, just in a rhythm that suits them. And for the first time in what feels like lifetimes, you think you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Not behind, not ahead, just here. You rise from the bench just as the last of the lanterns flickers to life. The village is now cloaked in a soft blanket of starlight. Every window glows, like the world has turned into a constellation made of homes instead of stars. The bell tower watches quietly, not needing to speak. It simply is. You walk slowly, not because you're tired, but because anything faster would feel out of place. Your footsteps barely make a sound on the worn cobblestones. You pass the tea shop again. It's closed now, but the warmth still spills from the cracks around the shutters, like it refuses to forget comfort, even overnight. You find your way back to the inn without thinking. The path carries you more than you carry yourself. The door opens without a touch, and the lobby welcomes you with candlelight and a familiar, whispering hearth. The key to your room is gone from the counter. You already have it. You always did. Upstairs, the hallway greets you with the scent of lavender and time that no longer needs keeping. Your room, dusk, is just as you left it. The candle still glows. The bed is still made. The journal on the desk is closed again. This time, when you open it, the page reads, "You were never lost, just elsewhere." You smile. There's nothing else to write tonight. You slip under the quilt and close your eyes. Outside the window, the moon hangs a little lower, and the stars lean in just a little closer, as if curious to see how your story ends, but it doesn't. Not here, not yet. And not because the story isn't finished, but because it no longer needs an ending to be whole. Here, in this quiet village, where time was once forgotten and now gently forgiven, you have nothing left to chase. You have nowhere else to be. You are already there. So now, the village fades slowly, not like a light switching off, but like a candle running low, its glow stretching tenderly into the quiet. The night wraps around you, soft and slow. The room holds your shape like it's known you for years. Outside, the trees no longer rustle. The air has gone still, not in fear, but in peace. Even the stars blink slower now, as if they too are slipping into sleep. You lie there beneath the quilt, eyes closed, but not because you're forcing them. They're simply tired in the best way. The kind of tired that means you've arrived. No alarms wait for you. No obligations press against tomorrow. Only the hush of this moment, stretched out like a lullaby, meant only for you. You breathe in once more, deeply, fully, and exhale with the ease of someone who doesn't need to hold anything in. And in the final flicker before sleep, you think of that first step into the village, the archway with no name, the fountain with no plaque, the scarf now resting gently across your shoulders. You remember it all, not with urgency, but with warmth, because the village never needed you to rush through it. It only ever asked you to notice it, and you did. So, let your thoughts drift, now, like petals on still water. Let the hush wrap around your ribs. Let the quiet remember you. And as the last candle melts into sleep, you are not running. You are not waiting. You are simply here, safe, still, and whole.